Episode 1, Procrastination Monkey. In this episode, we explore what procrastination is, some reasons for it and some misconceptions around it, what impact it can have on your personal and professional life, and hopefully by the end of it, some ways to get that monkey off your back. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Current Conventional. I'm your host, Carlos Carajola, and it's finally here. Episode 1, Procrastination. Started this a little over probably 3 years ago now. Managed to bang out a intro, some graphics, some social media presence, and then life happened, or if I'm honest, started procrastinating, but started getting into a new job, a new role, and it just never seemed like the right time, or I could never make time. You know how they say life's what happens while you're making other plans? Well, life definitely did happen, and happened in quick and fast succession. And last month I turned 40. When I recorded my intro, I was 37. And it's quite funny to think about that and to think about how I have been thinking about Current Conventional and getting something onto the air for 3 years and never really getting into it and sitting down and doing it. And I think that really did come down to something that I and probably a lot of you guys deal with, and that's procrastination. It's an everlasting little thing on your back that just keeps on nagging at you, but you just don't want to do it, or you don't know how to do it, or don't know how to start it. And in my case, I think it was a little bit of fear on how to start it, and also fear on putting yourself out there. And I think all of us can relate to that. So I thought it would only be fitting to have episode 1 be all about procrastination and the reason why I personally took so long to start getting this off the ground, and explore a little bit more around how procrastination impacts all of us, be it in our personal capacity, be it in our professional capacity, with the relationships we have, with the ideas we want to explore or get started. Something always happens, or you just don't want to start. I used to live by, and I suppose I still do, considering how long this took me, used to live by this motto of, if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would ever get done. And Current Conventional has been a little bit of a brainchild, or a pet project or pet hobby that I've been wanting to start for the longest time. Even though it's taken me 3 years to record the first episode, it's probably taken me 8 years to actually gather up the courage to start doing something in the recording space and content creation space. Huge fan of content creation in general, and how people put themselves out there to be analyzed and thought of and listened to. And every person that we listen to was never always the authority on something that we find interesting or that they speak of, but they eventually fall into that space and do start having that authority. And it's mostly because they've decided to put their heart on their sleeve and decided to expose themselves to the world, and let's see what happens. So here we are. Current Conventional is up and running. The plan is to have hopefully 1 episode a week. It'll either be myself reforming it and talking about topics that I enjoy, or that I find affect our mental well being or my mental well being, and exploring how to get over those hurdles or to stay motivated, or social constructs and breaking those down. We'll also have some guests on. Been speaking to a couple of friends and professionals that I deeply, deeply respect and trust, and they have agreed to come on. So we'll be getting that going. Need to figure out some logistics around that. And I hope you guys enjoy the journey with me. So, we've explored a little bit about why I personally struggle with procrastination, but I think most people would fall into those categories as well. It would either be a fear of the unknown, be it not knowing how to start something, not knowing how to finish it, not knowing what the outcome would be, and also fear of not doing it right, not doing it well, not doing it to other people's expectations, or worse, not doing it to your expectation. Sometimes we just need to start, and sometimes we just need to put things out there, and they will be out there. And just like everyone says, practice makes perfect. The more you put yourself out there, the more you take that leap of faith, you'll get better at it. And you'll start realizing that the fear that comes with the unknown is worse than what actually happens. So, the first part around what is procrastination and how it could manifest, or some reasons for it to exist, take that leap of faith. What's the worst that can happen? You don't know until you try, and it can always be better or the beginning of something beautiful. And with failure comes learning. And hopefully, that this podcast as a whole becomes a learning platform for all of us. Definitely want to reach out to you guys at the beginning of this and say there should be a link in the show notes, in some of the comment sections, around how you can get hold of us and record your next message, question, thought around some of the topics that we're discussing. Love to hear your thoughts on that. But now let's dig a little bit deeper. So, procrastination misconceptions. When it comes to procrastination, there are a few common misconceptions, and I think the biggest one is procrastination is just laziness or lack of motivation. But let's just think about that. Everything that I just said in the first part of the episode talks to fears, anxiety, analysis paralysis, or perfection, and making sure that it's just perfect and just right. It also can come down to difficulty managing emotions. It's by overcoming these emotional molehills, or getting better at poor mood management, that we start to look at procrastination as something different than just pure and utter laziness. And don't get me wrong, some of us are lazy at times, and it's not the anxiety or fear or wanting it to be just perfect, just right. And once you start coming up with excuses or reasonings, it's hard to stop. Just like Pringles. Once you pop, you just can't stop. but I think it's definitely more than just laziness. And we need to break down those barriers and thought processes around procrastination being just lazy, and understand that our moods do matter. What we're feeling or experiencing at the time definitely matters, and that we should have a really, really good look at it. There's a link down below to a person whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, where she goes quite into depth around better mood management as well as the emotional molehills that we create for each other. Because let's be honest, when we're faced with a task, we expect it to be this massive mountain that we need to climb. And that's sometimes not the case. When we finish the task that we procrastinated on for weeks and weeks, or we put off for the longest time ever, once we finally get stuck into it, we find that it actually got done quickly. Well, we did understand everything that was required of it. And even if we didn't, it was still a lot easier to get through than this massive mountain that we put in front of ourselves before we even took that first step. Another misconception is that, and creativity. So, is it your real best that you've given when you're leaving everything to the last minute to get it done? Does it really lead to better performance under pressure? Something to think about. Another misconception is that procrastination is avoidable or unavoidable. It's something that's just going to happen because it is me. This is how I've always done things. And, I have the procrastination gene. It's inevitable. Let me know your thoughts on that. Are all these misconceptions true, valid? Or do they come from something deeper? A bit of my own procrastination in starting current conventional, how procrastination looks and feels, and sometimes how it reacts. Are we able to beat it? Speaking from experience, I think there definitely are some techniques that we can deploy to combat procrastination. Something like breaking tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, setting deadlines, even if it's for ourselves, like I did with finally getting this off the ground. Finding maybe time management techniques. Sometimes it doesn't always take as long as we expect it to. And some time management techniques around breaking your work up can help to lessen the load, so to say, in order to get your stuff done. Also, maybe finding that meaning or purpose at the end of the goal. If we have a clear meaning or purpose at the beginning of something, a task that we need to get done, or something that we've been putting off forever, have that internal dialogue and figure out, what is the goal I'd like to achieve out of this, or the purpose that I'd like to obtain at the end. It still means something to you, and that it definitely still has purpose in your life, then maybe it is worth starting. Maybe it is worth doing right and not leaving it to the last minute. Maybe it'll help you. What about understanding prioritization? Some people decide to deal with the tasks that they really don't like to do in the mornings because then it's done. And they don't have to worry about it or let it sit on your head or on the back of your neck for the rest of your day. All of the difficult tasks, the tasks that we don't like dealing with, some of the admin work that we don't like, or the customer phone calls that we always put off, do those first thing while you're still fresh, eager, ready for the day. Because at the end of the day, you're doing the stuff that you enjoy. So it should be easier to get through instead of doing the things you enjoy at the beginning of the day. And like I always say, or I suppose there is a saying, and I've just altered it considering some of the things I've been going through over the last couple of years. And that's if it's one day at a time is not working for you, break it down into 1 hour at a time. And heck, some days it's going to be one step at a time. And that's okay. Break it into the chunks that are manageable to you on that specific day. Do that daily introspection by being more aware of what you are feeling and how you are feeling and why you are feeling. I believe that you're able to be kinder and more self-compassionate to yourself. But it also does something lovely in terms of making sure that the people around you are getting the best out of you. I had a task that I needed to do just the other day, but my day didn't start out well and had 2 or 3 personal issues that really clouded my thought process and my ability to be objective, clear minded. And something came up at work, and I could have chosen to deal with it in that moment in time, but it wasn't life threatening or detrimental to the company. But it's definitely something that needed to take place. Upon reflecting about the day or the morning that I had, I decided that I was going to bring it up with this individual on a to be taken up at a different time. I addressed the situation in terms of there is a problem, but I don't think that I am in the right frame of mind for us to discuss fully, to be in the moment around how we are going to get this done to the best of our ability and to the betterment of the company. So I'm making you aware of this so that we can both think about it, and we will tackle it in the morning when you've had time to maybe prepare and I've had time to just get back to more level-headedness. Now, if this was 10 years ago me, I would have called the person into the office and not been a decent human being to this person. And he would have walked away from that thinking that I'm a complete asshole. And he would be right, because I brought a lot of emotion in. I would have brought a lot of emotion in to the conversation that had nothing to do with him, but because of all the external factors that were happening to me at that moment in time, it just spilled over. Open, understanding, aware you can become when you start doing that kind of stuff. Start noticing that negative emotions definitely tie into you not wanting to start that task or not wanting to start that new adventure or implement this amazing idea that's going to change the world. Ideas are just that. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Until they're implemented, you could have had the same idea as Elon Musk and Bill Gates and even Jeff Bezos. The only difference between you and them is that they implemented it. Did they fail? Yeah. Did they succeed? Eventually. but they got up and did it. So think about that. I think we're reaching the end of this first inaugural podcast, and to do some self-reflection while recording, I suppose it was a lot less scary than I made it out to be in my own head. I'd like to leave you with one more thing in terms of how to get over these hurdles around procrastination or analysis paralysis or whatever else we want to call it. Create a supportive environment for yourself. Have some friends or colleagues, even partners, someone that you trust that can hold you accountable, even for silly things or personal things or adventurous hobbies like this one. Find a support group, find a sounding board, as I like to call them. Find that one person or collective that they might not understand what you want to achieve or what it is that is sparking you to want to do this task or achieve this goal, but they can see the passion in your eyes for it and that they know it means something to you. And because you mean something to them, they'll help you push through that first barrier, which is taking that first step. Remember, one step at a time. This is the first episode of Current Conventional. If you've reached to the end with my ramblings, I thank you. I appreciate you. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. Reach out to me on the Anchor audience link. If you have any suggestions for the next type of episodes that we should do or what we should cover, those are greatly appreciated and definitely welcomed. The one other thing that I'd love you guys to go and have a look at, and I'll leave a link in the show notes and everywhere else over social media, is Tim Urban's Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. It is hilariously funny and wildly accurate around how this procrastination monkey sits on your back. And thank you to Tim Urban for the inspiration for our first topic and for putting humor to something that can be very real and frightening sometimes to all of us. You can reach out to us on social media as well. On Facebook at facebook.com/current conventional. On Twitter at the current con, as well as on YouTube at the current conventional. From myself, Carlos, I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. I will see you in a week. Stay safe, take care, and remember, don't be a dress, just be lacquer.